Now that we know Twitter is expanding its character limit for most languages, you might be wondering how this move fits in with where the company started and how it grew. It all began in 2006 when founders Jack Dorsey, Evan Williams, and Biz Stone created the microblogging site in March, and there's one big thing you have to know first. It was spelled TWTTR. And that 140 character limit was first picked because that was the max length of text messages back then. Also, you should know former coworkers point to another person as a co-founder. That would be Noah Glass, and that tale is a whole other Winklevoss duplicate storyline you should really read about in your own free time. There's a book. The first ever tweet was sent by Dorsey through SMS. The company went live in July of 2006 and pretty quickly birthed the @reply. But didn't get talked about much until the following year when big screens at the South by Southwest Interactive Festival in Austin displayed tweets in real time. A few months later, another key Twitter function was born natively by users, the hashtag group. But the true power of the bird was first heard when a University of California, Berkeley student was photographing anti-government protests in Egypt and was able to tweet just "arrested" before going silent. Because of that alert, he was freed the very next day. Similarly, NASA announced major Mars news not in a formal news release, but in an all-caps thrilled tweet in June of the same year, which is a great time to remind you of the fail whale from 2008. One little drawing that encapsulated everything you needed to know while Twitter went through growing pains. It was basically offline all the time then. But it wasn't until the amazing US Airways aircraft landing on the Hudson River in January 2009 that things started shifting for the site. A widely shared photo from that event went everywhere, and suddenly folks realized Twitter could be a great real-time reporting tool. The Library of Congress took notice, announcing it would archive every public tweet ever, something future generations will probably data crunch like crazy. A few months later, Twitter officially added a retweet function to its platform after users first started doing it with the letters RT. Twitter came to the rescue during the Arab Spring uprisings in January 2011, when regular people in places like Egypt, Syria, and Libya used the social network to communicate about protests happening in their neighborhoods. Celebrities were all over using Twitter to communicate with fans pretty early, but no one shocked the world just by joining like the Pope did in 2012. But the wider impact of the whole thing was most notable the day the Associated Press's account was hacked, and a tweet sent from it said there had been explosions at the White House. It was false, and the AP leapt into find and fix mode, but the tweet freaked out a lot of people, and that includes the folks running financial markets, which started tanking, like the Dow Jones by 140 points. 140, that is an interesting coincidence. In any case, we then saw that things tweeted could affect the economy to a great degree. Parody accounts and hijacking of popular trending topics ensued, and that is a reminder, corporations, do not try to insert yourself into something the people are doing. They do not take kindly to it. And yes, I'm talking to Kenneth Cole. But some brands have done it cleverly, like when the power went out during the Super Bowl in 2013. Everyone wanted Oreos. Twitter went public at the end of 2013 and closed its first day of trading with a valuation of almost $32 billion. It hadn't proposed any great shakeups to the site yet, although people have been screaming for an edit button since then at least. I would like to add to the cacophony of screams myself, but they don't care. Oh, a quick backup. That same year, Twitter brought us Vine, those 6 seconds of comedic bliss. Of course, Vine was then killed 3 years later, and this was the people of the internet crying out. And for $86.6 million, Twitter bought Periscope, a streaming video app that at the time hadn't even been launched yet. Anyways, after they went public, things started getting crazy. We got story thread tweet storms, cries for edit buttons, Ellen selfies, but perhaps most notable to date, politicians started getting on board, including the first Twitter president. Twitter introduced Moments in 2015, which is a handy way to see what's trending on the site. Now onto the dark side. Twitter has long had a bullying problem, which came into sharp focus when actress Leslie Jones announced she was leaving the site because of abuse about the time her new Ghostbusters movie was coming out. The company solidified its political bent in the 2016 presidential election as the largest source of breaking news because of more than 40 million tweets that very day. Of course, since then, President Donald Trump has threatened North Korea via the platform, but it shouldn't feel too special since he also calls out private citizens and sports stars. Remember when he targeted a union leader by name shortly after the election? Another longed-for development finally happened at the beginning of 2017, when Twitter announced anti-bullying steps it was taking, like creating ways to keep previous abusers from making new accounts. @Jack said the approach was huge for Twitter, but ask any lady using the site, reporting abuse will take you days to weeks to get a response, if you ever do. But that tool and general chatter created a world in which Twitter users encouraged each other to report the president's tweet when he used threatening language about North Korea. We don't know how many people reported it, but it did eventually get a personal response from Twitter, which said basically, it is not about to muzzle the leader of the free world. Makes sense. Plus, some estimates are that having the US president use and love its platform is worth around $2 billion for the microblogging site. Twitter has also had to remove fake accounts since linked to Russian troll farms, though the exact number of accounts is unknown. Now we're all caught up on all the big moments, and that is where we are at now, with Twitter expanding to 280 character tweets in every language except Japanese, Korean, and Chinese. Because it turns out those languages' characters can cram in a lot more information than plain old English can. By the way, Twitter has pretty much stalled out on adding new users, sitting at about 313 million users for a while now. Twitter is betting on live video to bring more users to the site, but if that isn't the answer, the company's board is going to likely push for bold action, like selling. And do not get me started on company shakeups because there just isn't enough time. If you have an idea for a future episode, please let me know on Twitter, obviously.